we need to realize that we have the power of choice. I don't care how crappy it is. I don't care what life throws at you. We always have the opportunity of choice. And it's up to us to take the responsibility on and say, it's up to me to choose no matter what's going on. And once we realize that and we take that responsibility full-heartedly, we can create our own reality, our world, our destiny.
Welcome to She Coaches Coaches. I'm your host, Candy Motzek, and I'm going to help you find the clarity, confidence, and courage to become the coach that you are meant to be. If you're a new coach, or if you've always wanted to be a life coach, then this is the place for you. We're going to talk all about mindset and strategies and how to, because step by step only works when you have the clarity, courage, and confidence to take action. Let's get started. Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of She Coaches Coaches. I have a wonderful guest for you today. She texted me or DM'd me on LinkedIn, and we got together for a quick little Zoom chat. And I have got to say that I so enjoyed the conversation. And so I know that because I enjoyed the conversation, you will too. So let me tell you a little bit more about her, and then we're going to get into a great discussion. So her name is Sabine Schopke, and she is fueling midlifers to find their next true high. Now, true is all caps, so there's something there. She is a pathfinder for midlife and business growth, a speaker, status quo disruptor, retired serial entrepreneur, homeless to multimillionaire, and best-selling author. So I will tell you, Sabine, that has got to be the shortest bio that I have ever read. So tell me a little bit more about all of these different points that are in your bio. I'd love to hear more about your journey.
Well, I like to keep it simple, to the point, so you know what you're dealing with. Number one is I help midlifers find their true aligned success, because I believe making money alone is not what makes us happy, as I found out myself. But at the same time, I help them create financial freedom. And again, that's in alignment with their core values, desires, and dreams. And I am a retired serial entrepreneur of over 35 years. And I had my first company. I started it when I was 19, homeless on a park bench in Toronto. And I've gone ever since then. And I sold my latest company about a year and a half ago, and then took a little time out to figure out what was next. And it became really clear to me that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to help others achieve feeling the way that I feel today. It's not just about achieving, but really it's more about becoming for me. And it's about, getting to a feeling that's just beautiful, that's peaceful, that has freedom, but that fills your cup. And that's what I help people do today.
Yeah. There was two words that really stood out for me here. The word aligned. That's super powerful. And it's a word I hear a lot these days. And then also this word becoming, When you say aligned, what does that mean to you?
To me, it means, like I said earlier, it means it's not just about making money. It's not just about collecting zeros on a bank account, but doing it in a way that's in tune, that considers, that's aligned to an integrity. So as a whole, to your purpose, to your desires, to your dreams, to your wishes, as much as you know what they are, because a lot of people don't have a lot of clarity on that. But that's really the work I do with people to figure out what is it? What lights your fire? What gets you excited? What gives you that sense of freedom that we're all, because that's really all you know, we're aiming for is that sense of freedom to do with your time as you please, whatever that might be. And
Mm.
that for me is true alignment.
Yeah, I love that. And there's something when I think of alignment, it's like there's a resonance that happens. And the kind of resonance that I'm speaking of is the sound resonance, like if you've got two instruments that are playing in a harmonic, I'm not sure if that's the right word, way,
Mhm.
then the sound magnifies and it becomes something bigger than the two individuals. And so in that vibration, there is something so much more powerful. And each one of us can find that. And that's why I was really curious, like, what does it mean to you? Because we've got a word that we hear a lot, but like it means something that's a little bit different to you than it might to me or to somebody who's listening to the show, right?
Yeah, I love that. It's yeah, with the sound. And when we are in that alignment, like a tuning fork, when that's
That's it.
yeah, then God, you feel powerful, but in a beautiful way, like you're unstoppable. You can do anything. And you feel that when you're in the flow of things, when it's really, there's no pushing and pulling. There's no, like, the struggle of like making it happen. It's not there. It's like, oh, wow. There's a flow. It's coming easy. It feels good. And, um, it's just it's yeah, it's harmony. It's harmony between what you are striving for and what's coming your way, and then it magically things appear. I'm sure you've had that, right? Like where it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this person just appeared for me to help me or make this into reality. And it seems like magic, and when you're in that flow, it's a beautiful, yeah, it's a beautiful resonance. It is. Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't just seem like magic, it is magic. As you're describing that, I'm thinking about Abraham Hicks and how they described this process of, if you're resisting, if you find like it's not that it's bad to work hard. Like sometimes the work is part of the joy of it, but then there's this kind of a grinding work that is very different from a work that is an inspired type of work, where you really feel resonant, aligned, authentic while you're doing the work. Right. And so I love how Abraham Hicks describes it. It's like you don't have to really do much. You just have to stop fighting against the current. Right? Just stop fighting the current and turn downstream and it will flow. And so, what you're describing to me sounds like something that so many people want more of in their life. And sometimes they think that it's going to be really hard, but it doesn't have to be hard, right? And I think that that's maybe partly what you're describing.
Yeah, and the thing is though, and you're right, it doesn't mean that you don't have to work hard, but it's like, or a lot, like ever since I started this work, since I sold my company, I regularly, it's probably once a week that I think, oh my God, I don't think I've ever worked harder than this, as in more hours. And even my daughter called me the other day and she said, Mom, you're retired. You're always working. And I had to explain to her, and I said, okay, Allie, this is not the same. Like, this fills my cup. It's joyous. And I go to bed at night and I'm pooped, but in such a good way. Like, I feel, oh my God, I had amazing coaching sessions with people. I have conversations with people like yourself. And like, yeah, you get physically tired because you're so engaged and you're giving so much of yourself, but in a really beautiful way. And uh, it's a lot, but it's a lot of really good. It's no, like, it's it's not dreaded, like I don't need to set an alarm anymore. I wake up because I'm like, I'm excited. Let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah.
It's,
I'm rested now. Let's go.
yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of midlifers who are like this, that want that, right? Like we've done all the things that were our responsibility. We've, taken care of the kids, done all the different things that we are supposed to do and have to do. And then there comes a time in our life where we get to say, okay, some of that could change. I don't have to continue to live that way. Yeah. Can I ask you
Yeah.
just, it's going to sound like a random question, but I'm just curious about this. So, what is something that nobody would ever suspect is true about you when they meet you for the first time? What's that surprise thing?
That I used to be really shy, really scared of everything, and really sickly looking.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
What changed? How did it change?
So I have to say though, I had an accident when I was 10 years old. And by accident, my little brother, who's much younger than me, he threw a construction shovel like behind him. He was like 3 years old. I was 10 at the time. And it smashed my face and it broke
Mm,
my face in many different ways. And my nose, my chin. And back then my parents were like, "No, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Stop crying. It's not a big deal." But it was a big deal. And I had a nose that was basically detached from the top part down. It started to droop down like in a really not pretty way. My chin was pushed in, and I lived like this until about 10 years ago.
wow.
And then I had to go, my dermatologist sent me to a plastic surgeon because I've had a lot of skin cancer and I had something in my face. She said, I don't want to mess with this. Let somebody do this who is specialized in this. And so I went there and he looked at me and said, "Oh, that's not a big deal. I'll take care of that. But what happened to your face?" And back then I was financially independent enough to make my own choices. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to get this fixed.
Hmm.
It was the hardest thing physically that I have ever done. It took me a whole year to recover. I had open face surgery. They took everything out of my face and put me back together the way I was supposed to look.
Wow.
They took all the cartilage out, scraped off all the scar tissue, put it back together. They couldn't save my chin. I have a like an artificial chin in here. But I looked the way I was supposed to look. But it was only after I recovered a year later, I realized the effect I had on people. And
Hmm.
I woke up to that. And I was in a pretty abusive relationship for almost 20 years at that point. And I realized, oh my God, I don't have to put up with this. And also in like every area of my life, I realized that I had this strength, this power from a very humble origins because I was always so scared and so shy. So there was no arrogance in it. It was just like, wow, you're good. You can do things. And that really coming out of that um gave me it made me very, very compassionate, like having lived most of my life like that. But so for others and wanting to help others and instill that power in them because we all carry it within us. And that really, it changed everything for me. It gave me confidence. It gave me the energy. Like I feel like that for most of my life, for over 40 years, was bottled up inside of me and that I didn't allow to come out because I was so like I had this lack of self-confidence. And um so yeah, that's my long answer to your short question.
But I love that. Oh, and gosh, I have got to just say thank you for sharing that with me. I would say thank you for sharing it with us, but it's you and I here on the Zoom, right? And I never know what's going to happen when I ask a question like that, but I feel so deeply touched that you shared that with me. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And when I heard you speaking, the thing that came to me is, oh my God, we have no idea what somebody else has gone through in their life, right? We look at the outside of them and we see a human and we have a conversation, but there's no way we can have any concept of their history and the things that came together to make them who they were. Like I hear the tragedy, I hear the courage, but I also hear the like, how, how do you grow such deep compassion for somebody unless you have felt the need for it and suffered some yourself as well, right? Like,
Right.
so much underneath that outside what we see as a person. Really appreciate you sharing that.
I really do believe that um, I've experienced a lot of really crazy things in my life, and so have other people. And I am at a point though in my life where I look at all of these things and I am grateful and I look at them as gifts, not just for myself to have become who I am today, but also so I can give back. And that's what I was trying to tell my daughter too the other day, because she was like, Mom, why don't you, if you want to be busy and like, why don't you just get a job? And I was like, oh my God, no. I said, oh my God, you're missing the point. The point is that I have experienced all the things that I've experienced in my life, all the big tragedies and the losses that make up my story. And I have turned the narrative around, and they are such valuable gifts that have made me who I am today. And with the big heart that I have, the compassion that I have, the empathy that I have for people, to wanting to give back. And with the stories on top of that, I can help other people now. So I feel like my entire life has brought me to this point to be that, to be somebody who can have an impact on people and make their lives better because of what I experienced. And I am no victim, not at all. I feel like today I'm on fire, and I am so grateful for having made it through all of the things I've made it through and come out on top and say, okay, and now let me use this to help others.
So I just want to pause you for a second here. And this is kind of a note to the people who are listening. So, you guys who are listening, you can go and watch the YouTube video if you want to see it as well. But just how Sabine started when she said she helps people tap into this resonance and to their purpose so that they know who they are and what they're meant to be doing. You just heard what that resonance sounds like. And if you are missing a little bit of it, just know that it's possible for you as well, right? There's something about hearing the tone of your voice and the energy that goes with it. Yes, the words are important, but not as much as the underneath. And it's such a great demonstration of what you were talking about at the beginning, right?
Yes.
When
I'm
we
all
started,
in. I'm like 100%
right?
heart and soul into this.
Yeah, it's not work, it's love,
It
like it's
is.
not, it's, yes, it's work, but it's not drudgery. It's the love of like, I get to make this difference in the world. And my life was crafted in this way. And now I get to use it. Right. It's amazing.
And you know what I want to add to this? People who have listened to me, and somebody came up to me the other day and she said, I want to do this, but I have no stories. Like nothing bad has ever really happened to me. And I said, okay, tell me why you want to do this. And she said, because I care. And I said, that's it. And there's a reason. If I were to sit down with you, I would start digging and say, why do you care? What have you experienced? And it doesn't need to be some big tragedy, but whatever we experience that creates compassion in us, that's all you need as a coach, as a mentor, as a guide to others. That what has cracked your heart open to now give that to others. So
Exactly.
it doesn't need to be something crazy. No, we all live the same kind of life. We all have to deal with the speed bumps with, and we all have those. Nobody lives in paradise. So we all have that gift inside of us that we can give to others.
I love that. And so this sort of is now at the place where we talked before I hit record about the power of choice, right? So let's talk a little bit about choice. And there's another word that you didn't say, but kind of pairs with it for me, and that's responsibility. Not as in I bear a heavy responsibility, but as in I get to choose, and it's my responsibility to decide how I will respond. So, talk to me about what you're learning about choice.
So while I took the time out sitting in isolation last year, I actually got on a flight to Greece. It was one of those cheaper airlines for $19. You flew for 3.5 hours to Greece, and I got seated next to this older man. And we had the most incredible conversation. It turns out he was a monk, an Italian monk, who was going to a monastery in Greece. And we had, yeah, amazing conversation. At the end of the conversation, he said to me, I want to give you something on the way. And I said, okay. And he said, what do you think is the most important thing in life? And of course, I was like, okay, this sounds really, I know that's not it because this would be way too obvious. And I said, it's love. And he said, nice, but no. I said, yeah, I figured. So then I guessed a couple more times. I said, okay, just tell me. And back then he said to me, it's the power of choice. We each need to realize deep down in us that it's the power of choice. And back then, when he said that to me, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, all right. And I moved on. I got off the flight and moved on. And it was only about a month ago. There was a bunch of other things lined up, and it came back to me. And I'm like, oh my God, this is way bigger
Mm-hmm.
than what I thought back then because this is really the underlying, like it's like the foundation of it, of our entire lives. We need to realize that we have the power of choice. I don't care how crappy it is. I don't care what life throws at you. Like when I was homeless, I was 17 sitting on a park bench, homeless. I could have put my head in the sand. All kinds of things could have gone wrong, from drugs to prostitution to all kinds of things. But I chose to start a business with $3 in my pocket. That's all I had.
Hmm.
And there's many other examples I could give, but we always have the opportunity of choice. And it's up to us to, like you said, to take the responsibility on and say, it's up to me to choose no matter what's going on.
Hmm.
And once we realize that and we take that responsibility full heartedly, we can create our own reality, our world, our destiny. Because let's face it, nobody will ever arrive and life will be just peachy. It will not, right?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
So, what are we going to do? Like, become victims of everybody and everything else that's coming our way? Hell no.
We get to choose different. The other thing that really occurs to me when you say this is I was part of a mastermind with Ben Hardy, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. He's written a bunch of books. And one of the things that he was talking about that really stuck with me, and it kind of hinges on this choice piece, and that is we get to choose to reframe how we think about our past. And when we do that, it changes everything in the present and it puts us in a place that we're even more capable of choosing how we want to be going forward. So when we look at those things in the past, we can decide, oh, that was terrible. Oh boy. Or we can look for the thing that how we want to interpret it. That was a really hard thing. Gosh, I learned how to be resilient. Gosh, I learned how to get up anyway, when I didn't want to get up again. Gosh, I learned what it was like when somebody was rude to me. And I found that that wasn't the way I want to be with others, right? So this reinterpretation of how we think about our past so that we redefine who we are in the present and then who we will become in the future. Really, to me, it's so valuable for taking ownership of our lives and taking ownership of who, like, I always think of my purpose as kind of who do I want to be, right? Who am I? How can I help? How can I grow? So do you see how those kinds of things go together? And I wonder what you think about it.
I think it touches every single aspect of our lives. It touches like how, like you said, the narrative from our past, how it defines our present, and how it defines our future. And that's why it really struck me about a month ago, where I realized, oh my God, it defines everything. The power of choice, whether you take it or you leave it, defines how resilient you are. It defines your mental state. It defines whether you're a victim and you're going to blame everybody else for your circumstances, or you're going to take ownership and do something with it, not just despite of it, but because of it. And the other thing that I also I realized was I went to a workshop 3 weeks ago almost with Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton. And
Mm.
Bruce Lipton is the person for epigenetics. And he was talking about the same thing. I'm like, oh my God, here it is again. Even physically, there was another speaker that came because of that. Her name is Anita, I think it's Morjani,
Oh yes, yeah,
who,
definitely. Dying
right?
to be me. Dying to be me is her book, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, as you know, she was dying of cancer. She fell into a coma because of organ failure, and she transitioned to the other side and found out what life was really all about. And it was about choosing between love and fear, choosing not to be afraid anymore. And she recovered, like now it's what, like 16 years or 18 years after that coma that she was in, and she's cancer free because she chose to change her perspective away from fear and took responsibility on creating her environment. And that's what epigenetics is all about, saying, no, no, no. People blame the genes. Oh, that's why I'm overweight. And this is why I'm sick. And the other day, somebody said to me, oh, I hate my body. It betrayed me. I'm like, really? Oh my gosh. So it has an impact on our physical well being as much as on our mental and emotional and spiritual well being. And it's huge. Ever since I left my toxic relationship almost 10 years ago, I think I've had one cold,
Mm.
one single cold.
Wow.
I've
Wow.
never, and before for 22 years, I was sick all the time, nonstop. And if anybody goes on my LinkedIn or messages me, I will show you pictures of what I looked before I left that relationship and of like compared to what I look like now. It's
Right.
mind blowing. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Wow. So this is a super interesting topic and I'm fascinated by it, but I always like to kind of get a little bit practical too, right?
Yes.
So if you on this topic of choice, somebody's going, wait a minute, that could transform everything in my life. Where would you suggest they start?
Okay, so the most important thing is to create an awareness for this. So, and I say practice on little stuff. And practice when, let's say, you're driving and somebody cuts you off. Practice there and tune into the awareness and say, okay, I have a choice right now. I can choose to get really agitated and pissed off, or I can choose to say, I'm not taking this personally. Like, whatever, this guy's in a rush.
Yeah.
It's okay. And move on with your life. You can choose on little things. And so I was a professional bodybuilder until a year and a half ago. And I always compare it to bodybuilding. Flex that muscle because the more you flex that muscle with little weights at the beginning, the more you strengthen that muscle of building the awareness. And when shit hits the fan, you're ready. It's like you have flexed this muscle enough for it to come in and say, okay, wait a second, let me choose.
Mm-hmm.
Let's choose. What is it going to be? Am I going to let this ruin my day or my year or whatever it is? Or am I choosing differently for myself? But you got to flex this muscle. So flex it with little things that would annoy you. And you're like, actually, I'm good.
Yeah. Like the little irritations. And I think I like the prompt about how do I want to choose here? What choice will I make? And then that sort of reminds you that you're actually exercising this ability. And you may find that there's things that you assumed were that's just the way they are. I made the assumption that that's just the way they are, but then after you start to choose and make these decisions about how you want to be in that situation, you may find that a lot of those assumptions are not at all the way things have to be, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah,
Because I think there's a lot of programming on how things just ought to be. That's just the
yeah.
way it is. Like
Yeah.
people
Like
say it
what
all the
is
time,
true? What is true? You
right?
know, yeah.
Yeah. But there's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of assumptions we make and a lot of programming that you can override the programming. And that's what's going to happen. Like sometimes people are like, well, you can't do that. Like when I sold everything and I put myself on a mountain, I sold it all. I got rid of everything I owned, narrowed it down to two suitcases. I'm going to get on this flight to Munich and let's see. And they're like, you can't do that. I'm like, why not? Who's stopping me?
Yeah.
Well, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that to your children. My children are grown. They're living in Europe themselves. What are you talking about? And they actually totally support this because I was there for them for the first 20 years of their lives. They're like, Mom, go, enjoy your life, go, figure it out.
How often is that you can't go and do that because it's maybe a little too scary for them to even consider it? And so that means they have to confront that maybe it's a choice they made. We're back full circle. Maybe that was a choice they made. It's not that they couldn't do it, it's that they chose that they wouldn't do it, whatever that it happens to be, right?
And that brings us again full circle too, because everything in life is it's either love or it's fear. And I knew there was a lot of people who were not happy with what I did, that I left and I took off for a while. And but it wasn't out of a lack of love, but it was out of fear. And a lot of people said that to me once I came back. I actually decided to come back. I'm back in the LA area now. But people were like, I have to tell you something. I wish I could have done or I could do what you have done.
Hmm.
I was like, I know, I didn't take it personally. I know because I know it's out of love or fear. And it's not that they didn't love me and they were mad at me. They were just out of fear that oh my God, it's in my face. Like I should do something about where I'm at and it doesn't feel right. Or, oh my God, what if she doesn't come back? Like that's another fear, you know?
Mhm.
So it's fear. It's fear of, and a lot of people wish they could do things, but that's where we need to stop ourselves and just take a breath and take a step back. Try to get a bird's eye view of where am I at? What's going on? What am I looking at? What is my choice here? Do I have a choice? And I tell people also, you don't have to do what I did. Like, yeah, that was a little crazy, but I could. I had the option to do that. But we can make changes and different choices in smaller things. And people often tell me, said, oh, well, you're so lucky you could do that. And I'm like, okay, explain your situation to me. And it never fails. I always can sit them down and say, you do have choices. You know that. How about this and this and this and this? And they're like, oh,
Never thought
actually,
about it that way, right? Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. That's the
But
power
I
of
think
coaching.
that's why it's good to have mentors, to have guides, to have coaches. Like, I don't know about you, but I have people that I can talk to who help me get a bird's eye view of things sometimes when I don't see it. So we all need that, I think.
Oh, I totally agree. I love that. Ah, well, Sabine, we have talked about so many things. This power of choice. And also, like for me, there's sort of a deeper layer there about what is choice and what do I assume must be and what do I forget that it was a choice or it could be a choice. So just before we wrap up today, I would love it if you would share how people can find out more about you and share your website and LinkedIn and all these different things so they can come into your world.
Okay, so I'm very active on LinkedIn, and that's really the only social media platform I'm on. And under the name Sabine, Sabine, and last name Schopke, which is Schopke. And then I have a website, which is www.thepowerlifecoach.com.
Lovely. Thank you. Gosh, it's been wonderful talking to you.
Same here.
I have
Thank you
more
so
questions, but we can't talk for 3 hours.
much. It was such
Okay,
a pleasure.
everyone. Okay, everyone. That's it for this week. I hope that we've given you something to think about and a place where maybe you can find a place to choose a little differently, to look inside at the choices you've made, and to grow a bit. Really appreciate you spending the time with me. Thank you so much for showing up this week. Hey, it's Candy, and I am so glad you're here. Thanks again for tuning in and listening to this episode. Now, before you go, don't forget to take my How to Find Your Best Coaching Niche quiz. You can find it at coachnichequiz.com. That's coachnichequiz.com. Talk to you soon. Thanks again for listening today. Please hop on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Also, I would love to hear from you. Did something that I say resonate? What else would you like to learn about? Click the link in the player and leave a comment on the post. This is going to give me great ideas for future episodes so I can help you best. Join me again next week for more coaching, support, and teaching to help you become the confident coach you are meant to be.